Hello and welcome back to another Indianapolis Colts podcast. It is April 2nd on date of recording this. So now into the month of the draft, which is very exciting for everyone around the league to see what their teams are going to do come later this month on draft night and what the Colts are going to do. That's what I want to talk about today. I'm going to break it down a little bit. Looking at what the Colts have right now, they have the 26th pick in the first round. I'm going to talk about what that means. Could the Colts potentially trade up? Could they trade back to get more picks? It's certainly possible. So I'll go into that a little bit later. But with our 26th pick, it's followed by the 34th in the second round. We'll have 2 second-round picks, a third round, 2 fourth rounds, a fifth, a sixth, and a seventh round. So in total, the Colts will have 9 picks in the 2019 NFL Draft. And it's going to be very exciting to see what Ballard is going to come up with. I think that I've looked at what the Colts could use, their biggest needs. I have them kind of listed out. And I wanted to see players not only that have been listed in mock drafts around the NFL from experts, but what I also thought could fit as well. And some of these mock drafts, you've seen that have quarterbacks going first round to the Indianapolis Colts, and kind of have to cipher through those. And obviously, it's not an exact science. It's going to be it's going to be up to Ballard essentially what is going to be picked. So these guys are certainly not in Ballard's head. But, the Colts don't really have a history with the 26th pick. They had one in 1971 and 1977. That was the last time that the Colts had the 26th pick overall in the draft. So, does that mean anything? Well, no. But they just haven't been in this particular spot before. So it'll be interesting to see what is there. There's so many big names that have been thrown out this year surrounding the draft. A huge defensive oriented draft this year, which is certainly exciting for teams that are really looking to add a piece to their defense that could make an impact right away. And there are certainly guys that could certainly fit that billing that are going before the Colts could have a chance to pick them. But I'm going to look at some of the guys that could be there in a little bit, and we'll see how that goes. The recent 26 picks here in the past couple of years, Calvin Ridley went last year as a 26 pick to the Falcons. He turned out to be a pretty decent wide receiver. Still kind of see what happens with him. We're kind of seeing what the Falcons are doing still. Before that was Tack McKinley, again with the Falcons in 2017. He's a pass rusher for them, and he's had bursts of shining moments too. But he has not necessarily stood out in my opinion. Whitney Merciless in 2012 was the 26th pick, the same draft as Luck. He's had a great career with Houston. He's terrorized the Colts a time or two, and certainly others in the AFC South. So that was a great pick for the 26th for sure. And the other one I saw that was interesting was Clay Matthews in 2009. He was the 26th pick for Green Bay, and that turned out to be pretty well. My thoughts on what the Colts' biggest needs are, I touched about this in a previous podcast about a week or so ago, but I'll kind of restate it. I've had some more time to think about it. And with 9 picks, these are kind of the ones that jump off the page to me a little bit. Not necessarily in any order, but some I could definitely see higher than others. Starting off, defensive tackle, safety, cornerback, pass rush, wide receiver, another sort of linebacker to complement Darius Leonard and Walker, especially if one of them gets nicked up, and a running back. I still you're bringing in these free agent guys, and I don't think that you have your answer there at number 2 running back. Naheem Hines and Jordan Wilkins, I like them. They had some issues with ball security early on. I'll give them the benefit of the doubt because they're rookies, but you got to look for somebody to complement Marlon Mack. What I think that they'll do with this first pick is definitely, well, it's definitely not going to be a running back, and I doubt that it's a wide receiver. Looking at the mock drafts, a lot of them have defensive tackles. I'll go into that a little bit with Dexter Lawrence and Jerry Tillery, the Notre Dame guy. When you look at those guys' stats, and they don't really say a whole lot. And yes, they're defensive tackles, so they're not getting to the quarterback as much as necessarily edge guys. But it's not that great. Dexter Lawrence with 11 career sacks at Clemson, and he was there for 3 years. So that kind of is something that stands out to me a little bit. In college, it's a little bit of a different game than the NFL. It's more spread. It's more get the ball out quick. It's more running. So looking at the film this morning, he was a disruptor. He was a big disruptor, and I think we could use that and to clog some running lanes. He's a huge stature, so that could be something that the Colts could look into, and I'll go into that. But that's if the Colts stay with the 26th pick overall, and there's some talks to that maybe they don't, and they could look elsewhere. There's been a couple articles flying around that I've saw that involve trades with the Seahawks, which I thought is interesting. I don't like the Seahawks, number one, so I don't want to help them out any. But the Seahawks only have 4 picks this year: a first-round pick, which is the 21st pick, a third-round, 4th, and 5th. And the Seahawks are not a good enough football team right now to only have 4 picks in the draft. Their defense is kind of weeding out. It's kind of getting old. They're losing guys, trying to rebuild. So a team trying to kind of rebuild around Russell Wilson, and you only have 4 draft picks? Well, that's a little weird to me. So I think that they're going to look to get some other picks, even if they're later, round draft picks. I think that they're going to try to get as many guys as they can. And with 4 picks, what are the odds that those 4 players are going to be impact players on the Seahawks? Well, not very good. So it seems very elementary, but the more picks you have, the better. It's just how it is. I mean, the Patriots have 12 draft picks this year. It just seems like they're always just super good in that regard, that they always have picks, that they're always making the right moves, making the smart moves. And I think that that's what Ballard is kind of wanting to emulate a little bit, that he's being smart with his picks, and he's not going to give them up easily. So I think that to trade up, they would have to know that their guy would be there whenever that would be. So if they have a guy, and they Ballard and his team is they really think that he's going to go before pick 26, and they want to snatch him up, well, they could trade to Seattle or something like that, move up a little bit, and then not give up a whole lot for it, but at the same time you're probably going to have to give up one of your picks otherwise, and you're just moving up 5 spots. So giving away kind of my position on it, I don't think that the Seahawk method, I don't think that is going to be the right way. That's only 5 picks, and you're probably going to have to give up another pick. So if Ballard did it, I would understand if he was he had conviction in the guy, and he believed that he was only going to be there at 21, or whatever the case may be. He's looking into that 24 hours a day pretty much. So I would have a belief if he did that it would be for a good reason. But looking at it from the surface and from what I can see, that doesn't really that doesn't do a whole lot for you. I think that if you would move up, you'd need at least top 18 to me, man. You need to believe in somebody that's there that could really come in. If there was some premier pass rusher or something, I don't necessarily know what Ballard kind of thinks of this team makeup after the Houston trade. He's kind of mentioned that it's in the right direction, but does he still think that pass rush is the number one thing? I'm not really sure. So that's kind of why I'm kind of giving my own opinion on it rather than giving Ballard's opinion. So I think that, if you could have a playmaker there that probably on defense that's there, pick 15 to 20 and you wanted to trade up and that team, whoever's there is willing to give you a decent deal for it, well, then I think you need to look into it because there, that's closer to 10 picks moving forward. And that could be said a lot. Another thing I could see him doing, and I hope it doesn't happen, I hope he doesn't move back. And what I mean by that is moving back from the 26th pick to, another second round pick and another third round pick or something like that. I really think that there's going to be somebody good there at 26. I'll go into who I think could be there and here in just a minute. But I think that there are players there that could fit around that spot that could instantly fit into his defensive scheme and his whole team scheme. And these guys that are there are, great character guys too. So, so that's something I really look at too, because I know what Ballard is thinking. So, looking at the mock drafts, it's the number one I've seen. So I've looked probably at 15 or so, and some of them I just threw out the window immediately. But one of them that stood out to me was defensive tackle Dexter Lawrence from Clemson. They have him going to the Colts with the 26th pick. And that's just kind of that's a smart move to me. You look at him, he's a 3-time All-ACC. He's got 11 sacks in his career. For me, I look at that and it's not, like I said earlier, it's not really jumping off the page to me. But looking at his tape, I mean, the dude's just a monster, man. And I really think that he brought a nastiness to Clemson, and I think that the Colts could certainly use that. And he could be kind of an instant fit. He could probably, go in there game one and start for you. He's just got that stature. It looks like he's built for the NFL. So with him, first round pick, could Ballard see that? Yeah, I think so. But I also think that he won't be there 26. I think he'll go before that. So for me, I was kind of tough because he is a great player. And, I'm just trying to kind of find holes in him to be objective a little bit. But I think he's a great player, and I would be very happy if the Colts picked Dexter Lawrence, in my opinion. That same mock draft had the 34th pick for the Colts, so the first second-round pick, A.J. Brown. This would be a dream, okay? I don't know if he's going to fall to 34. I think that somebody's going to snatch him up. I don't know when necessarily, but this guy, everybody's talking about Metcalf from Ole Miss, but A.J. Brown is a monster. And this guy, he's 230 pounds. He's a yards after the catch receiver. He does most of his work in the open field. He can, turn on the jets. And just get fly past corners. And he's also a hands catcher. He can go up there and get you the big man catch when you need it. And I think that would be something that the Colts could look to right now, because they have their hands man, Ty, who's normally very reliable. You're bringing in your Funchess, that was a drop problem. Well, in my opinion, A.J. Brown is another guy that could be a really nice hands catcher for you, and a guy that could be yards after the catch. You're always looking to pick that up. So that could be something that I would really look at, because I don't think that Ballard necessarily is looking at the wide receiver group like I am, and with a lot of skepticism. I think that they have a lot of faith in guys like Chester Rogers, where I really don't. So for me, that's kind of tough to look in Ballard's shoes, because I want to do that to have a realistic expectation of what to see through the draft. But also, in my opinion, I think that the Colts really need another playmaker, and that would take that offense. I mean, it would just jumpstart it. A.J. Brown, I really, really, really love that pick, and I hope that he could fall to 34 and they get him there. The second round pick, this one had Taylor Rapp, the safety. I think that he could be a fit. He looks to be kind of more of a box safety. I was reading an article that kind of talked about his issues with some coverage sometimes. You look at what he did in college, and he had some shining moments, and but also we're the Pac-12 is so weird to me, and I'm gonna talk about this in a little bit. There is great talent in the Pac-12, but in my opinion, you're not getting the same kind of talent that you're getting in the on the East Coast, and that could be my bias playing into it, but he's kind of a Pac-12 safety, so I don't necessarily know how I feel about that one, but yeah, that's really kind of all I wanted to go on this first mock draft. This mock draft had the third round pick, Kahale Waring, tight end from San Diego State. And I don't really agree with that. I don't think they need to pick up a tight end that early. I mean, I think that they could be looking to pick up a tight end, depending on what they want to do with Jack Doyle next year. But I mean, I don't know. I think that going in that far into these mock drafts, you're just kind of guessing, and I don't really want to do that. So looking on in the next one, they had Jerry Tillery from Notre Dame going, the defensive tackle for there. He's another guy, a huge big body presence, like kind of your Dexter Lawrence, but he didn't necessarily have the stats. I'm looking up his stats right now to see, because I looked him up earlier and it just wasn't. What does he have here? Okay. So he has about 12 and a half career sacks. Had 7 his last year in Notre Dame. Had 8.5 tackles for loss, 28 total tackles. So not bad. Not bad. Definitely a first round pick. Definitely somebody that the Colts could be looking at with the 26th pick. I think that he will be there. I think that, unlike the Dexter Lawrence, I think looking at the tape and kind of what I've seen, I would kind of prefer the Lawrence, even though I'm a Notre Dame guy, as well as far as college football is concerned. But I don't know. I think that Tillery can be there, and that if they think that he can fit, then that would be somebody that I could also see and accept as well. The same mock draft had A.J. Brown number there again for the Colts. So that would be something that I would really like. And then the second round pick was safety Jonathan Abram. He is somebody that I could really like to see. He really he's from Mississippi State. He saw a lot of big time air raid type offense in his time at Mississippi State. So I think that he could take that and he could be put into a real NFL situation maybe faster than Taylor Rapp, in my opinion. He had some. He looks like he's more of a coverage safety, which is something that I think is really important. I think that Malik Hooker does that really well for the Colts, and that fits a lot. But if you're looking for a guy to be next to Malik Hooker, maybe you are looking for that box safety, kind of like what you were looking at a couple weeks ago with Landon Collins, bringing him on. He's definitely more of that box safety. So maybe that's where Ballard will go. Maybe they'll go Taylor Rapp because he is the box safety type presence rather than the coverage because you already have your coverage and you're looking to be kind of more coverage with your corners. So I don't necessarily know, with this defensive system that the Colts use right now, you can kind of go either way with it. So I don't think that necessarily it's going to be something that is do or die with them. But I like me personally, I like the coverage safety a little better. Going on to the third mock draft pick or mock draft is Byron Murphy, a cornerback from Washington. And this one I really liked. I did. I looked at this kid and there are a little bit of concerns, a little bit, but he's a 5'11" cornerback. Gives you a little bit of a taller presence than kind of what's on your team right now with your Kenny Moore and Quinton Wilson's like 6'1". He's probably actually your biggest guy. But this guy could be kind of a more dominating presence. He's a hard hitter. I mean, you look at his highlight tape and it's mostly hits. He's covering guys. They'll catch the ball and literally just half second later, boom. I mean, gone. He'll just blow them up. So that could be something that I would love to see. I mean, you want that nastiness on your defense. And I think that he could bring it. There are a little bit of concerns with the coverage. So that's kind of something that brings my concern. And I don't know if it's coverage because of he hasn't been put into the right, scheme. How could he fit in the cover 2 scheme? All of that. They didn't run the cover 2 there at Washington where he went. He was another Pac-12 guy. But he was a 4.55 40. Not great, but not terrible. You could get by with that in cover 2. So yeah, that's a little bit of concern. And but he reads routes really well. He closes in on the ball. I think he's a ball hawk. He could fit in to what the Colts are doing. He flies around the field. He's not necessarily, speed, 4.3 fast, but he's fast. He's fast on the field. He's fast on his feet. He's quick. He could be somebody that, the Colts could be looking at. And in this mock draft in the second round, the Colts had the Colts select Jeffrey Simmons, a defensive lineman from Mississippi State. He was a projected top 15, something like that, pick before his ACL injury that left him out. He's huge. I mean, 6'4", 301 pounds. This guy is a tank. And, he kind of similar stature. He's got the nastiness to Ndamukong Suh. So, and kind of the build. So that could be somebody. If he falls, I don't think he's going to fall. I think somebody's going to pick him up first round. So I don't want to spend a whole lot of time talking on him, but he could be somebody that if he did fall, for worries about injury or worries about, his behavior or something like that, then, the Colts could take a shot on him and he could be a real talent. And we've seen, Ballard isn't afraid of giving guys a shot, that have been written off or, so, you could look for that. But looking at this draft, man, I think the more I think about it, I think that they should get a defensive player. I think that even though your defense took a huge step in the right direction last year, you still need a couple more guys to fit in there. And building through the draft is exactly what Ballard has done and what he wants. So really look for him to do that. And that's really kind of where I stand on it. I went through so many more mock drafts and looking at it, they would just kind of piss me off and I wouldn't agree with it. So I didn't really want to talk a whole lot about that. I hope that gives you, a little bit of insight. Some of these mock drafts go, 5 rounds, 6 rounds. I don't really want to spend a whole lot of time talking about that because, like I said, that's kind of the guessing game. I'm not spending 12 hours a day looking at these guys like Chris Ballard and his team is. So for me to give my opinion, I want to do it in the most accurate way I can. And I think that way would be focusing kind of on the early round picks. So that's kind of what I wanted to do and break it down a little bit. But I think that this draft, I don't expect it to be as good as last year. I think that you're going to find some definite starters and some guys that are really going to impact the Colts this year. But I don't think that it's going to be, two all-pro first-team rookies like you had in your last draft. So, I have faith in Chris Ballard. Absolutely. I think you'd be silly not to if you're a Colts fan. He's had 2 good drafts in a row. And, I don't think there's any reason why he wouldn't have a third one. The Colts fans are used to seeing some bad drafts. We had Philip Dorsett. Oh, God, that was awful. I can't believe he was a first-round pick. But I have high hopes. I'm going to, look into this more as time goes on and as more news comes out. It might come out that, the Colts are kind of looking at these guys a little closer. Then I can kind of go into more depth about it. But right now, excited that it's April, excited that it's draft month, and I'm excited for Colts football, man. And I just can't wait to, see what they're going to do because, after the draft is really when you can look at teams and say, okay, this is who they are, and yeah, the still haven't gone through training camp, still haven't gone through all that, but you can look at teams, at least from on paper, and say, okay, this is who they are, this is who they have. How can we rank those against other teams? And right now is a little too early, even though I've given my opinion on kind of where the Colts stand in 2019. But from the draft standpoint, that's kind of what I have going on. I don't want to make this one too long. It's already gone on a little longer than I was thinking it would. But thanks for listening. If you made it this far, I appreciate it. Leave me a like and subscribe to the channel. Leave a comment. Anything helps, man. I really want to hear more about what you guys think. Let me know if you guys think I'm stupid, if I'm wrong, whatever. I don't care. But thanks for listening, and I'll be coming out with another podcast later this week. Thanks so much.